This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and we're here to present UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Muhammad. We'll be going over the entire card, breaking down each individual fight, giving you our thoughts and predictions. This was supposed to be Edwards versus Chimaev, but we've heard recently that Chimaev is dealing with some sort of post-COVID issues or something additional that they're not disclosing. So best of luck to him to coming back. Allegedly retired, but we'll see what happens down the line. Very interesting fight card from top to bottom. 15 fights? Actually, this morning we found out that Zubaira fell off and he's no longer fighting Ricardo Ramos. So they might potentially find a last minute replacement for Ramos to fight. Before we begin, though, we would like to say thank you for everyone who's been commenting and liking our videos. We appreciate that tremendously. We only have a couple followers right now, but everything counts, and we really do appreciate everyone commenting and just letting us know what you guys think about the fights and our predictions. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram at Tiger Bomb MMA. We're trying to grow that as well. Not a whole ton of content yet, but we're planning on doing something big with that. But to start off our fight card, we've got a flyweight fight between Matheus Nicolau and Manel Kape. This is another fight that was just recently made. It's a very short notice fight. Tagir Ulanbekov was supposed to fight Nicolau in Nicolau's return fight to the UFC, and Manel Kape is taking the fight on very short notice. The odds right now are, I guess they're still not out yet. I thought I would have something, but no, that's still a very new fight, so we don't have odds on it quite yet. I was going back and forth with this fight because everything, like I even on my Tapology page, I don't even have it chose yet because I'm not sure how to go about it. I did watch some tape on Nicolau because I didn't remember much about him during his first UFC stunt or stint. There is a stunt in there. I will talk about it now. He fought Dustin Ortiz, and Dustin Ortiz knocked him out with a head kick about 2.5 years ago. And I went back and watched that particular fight, and something alarming did kind of catch my eye is that Nicolau looked fantastic. He was beating up Dustin Ortiz pretty easily on the feet, and he gets caught with a head kick. The thing about the head kick, though, is that Nicolau blocked it with his hand, yet it still knocked him down. And it almost looked as if the head kick pushed Nicolau's wrist into his own jaw, and his own jaw, or yeah, his own wrist actually dropped him down. So what concerns me is that Nicolau on paper is just a better fighter than Manel Kape. Got better boxing, better movement, better grappling. Just that Manel Kape presents that power. And then on the opposite side, Manel Kape, although he has that power, he lost to Pantoja in a very lackluster fight. He didn't pull the trigger, so God knows how he's going to come in this fight. So it's a really coin flip fight for me. I think overall, though, the better fighter is Nicolau. I think he has better weapons. Just at that chin, I'm not too sold on it quite yet. Um, there's a huge chance that Manel Kape comes in here with a fire under his ass and knocks out Nicolau. But oh man, it's tough for me to count on him again after his last performance. I will take him this time. I think he'll have to show me something to continuously have me pick him, but I will go with him to actually knock out Nicolau. Just that one particular fight, even though it was 2 years ago, was a little concerning. So because of that X factor, I'll go with Manel Kape to win by, I'm going to say second round knockout.
I am looking to fade Manel Cape for two main reasons. One, he reminds me of somebody that I'm not particularly fond of. Number two, uh, I think that KO from Dustin Ortiz, that head kick, was more of a fluke than anything else. I know it was kind of a funny head kick. It was like more of a chain knockout, if anything, because the kick hit his fist, and then his kind of hand or fist hit his chin, so he kind of knocked himself out, as you mentioned. But I think that was kind of a fluke thing. And while I'm not saying he's all of a sudden has an iron chin, I think he's shown enough to since then, even though he hasn't fought in almost a year and a half, that he's that it was kind of a fluke on his record. I think he's going to have enough to maybe take the decision from Cape. Cape was very disappointing in his last fight, which was less than a month ago against Pantoja. I mean, Pantoja isn't exactly, like doesn't necessarily have future champ stamped all over him or anything. But Kape didn't exactly come in, with a fire under his ass, and I doubt he's going to come in, with one now. Especially, so, I don't know. Just there's really no train to hop on. There's no Kape train, on the way to a championship to hop on at the moment. So I don't think I will. I'll take Nicolau by decision, just due to a poor showing last time by Kape, and I anticipate a similar poor showing this time around.
Our next matchup at strawweight, we've got the rematch between Angela Overkill Hill and Ashley the Spider Monkey Yoder. I won't spend too much time on this one. Angela Hill is, the last two fights she's lost by a split decision. And I know a lot of people like to shit on Angela Hill because, her record's not the greatest. She's 12-9. And she is fighting a lesser competition in Ashley Yoder, but Ashley Yoder has slightly improved. And we know what Ashley Yoder does. She takes your back, she rides you out, or she submits you. She doesn't really offer too much when it comes to the realm of striking, or really, she can't really put you in too much danger unless she takes your back. But when it comes to Angela Hill, I think she has progressed. Her striking, her grappling, that is her one defense flaw, is that she, her grappling can get her in trouble. When she gets on her back, it's really hard for her to like get back up. Although she has fought in her last two fights two really good grapplers in Claudia Gadelia, which, a lot of people say she got robbed on that one, but it was a really close fight. I do lean Angela Hill to win that one, but I wouldn't say it's a robbery. And then the one fight where we both made quite a bit of money, I think you made more money than I did, the Michelle Watterson fight. She clearly lost that fight. She looked good in the striking in the first exchanges in the first three rounds, but then, she got tired and she got out grappled. Frankly, though, Angela Hill should take this one easily by decision. I don't think Ashley Yoder will put her in any real trouble. The only concern is that, how is Angela Hill trending? I know she's lost a couple fights, though she has looked semi-impressive in them. Overall, though, she has looked better than she has really ever. So I say that Angela Hill will defend takedowns, kind of land the harder shots, out volume her. So I will go Angela Hill to win this one by decision. I just don't see Ashley Yoder presenting any sort of value at this point, even though the odds right now have her as a plus 300 and Angela Hill to come back is a minus 360. You guys know we ain't touching this one at all. But no, there's no value in Ashley Yoder at this point. Her only method of winning would be potentially just riding out the rounds, but I can only see her doing that one round. So maybe a 29-28 decision for Angela Hill. She loses the third round.
I agree. My sentiments exactly. I think while Angela Hill, her last two losses may, on the surface, seem like she's on a losing streak. I think she actually, even though I did win and I did bet on Michelle Watterson on the last fight, I thought it was very close. It could have easily, Angela could have easily edged on the judges' scorecards, but they gave it to Michelle Watterson for whatever reason. Maybe they enjoyed the view from the cage from Michelle's side. Who knows? Same thing with Gadela. Gadela has been horrendous, and she somehow pulled out the victory against Hill. And I don't see Ashley Yoder either having the volume, like Michelle Watterson, or having the ability to take down and keep Angela down in this fight for all three rounds. That is, she may somehow, in the last round, just throw common sense out the window and just go for it. But I see Angela Hill taking this at least by 29-28, but I think she'll probably take it 30-27. Get a decision, get a W back on the record.
Our next matchup at flyweight, we've got Courtney Cast Iron Casey versus JJ Aldrich. And although this is going to sound really disrespectful, this is my fight to miss. I am not interested in this one at all. It's just, low level fighters, really. I will say, though, they both present specific, aspects of their game that are like impressive to a point, but nothing overall. JJ Aldrich has really good striking. She trains with Rose Namajunas. Her record right now is 8-4. Her last loss was to Sabina Mazo, who I'm particularly not very high on. That's a fight she was actually winning, and then God knows what happened midway through the round that she ended up losing the fight. My biggest concern with JJ, although I do think she has superior striking, she tends to stop fighting midway through. Like she has a really good first round, a really good second half of the round, and then something happens. Courtney Casey, I like Courtney Casey. I've been kind of a fan of hers for a while. I won't tell anyone in public, oh yeah, I'm a huge Courtney Casey fan, but I like Courtney Casey. She reminds me of the female Carlos Condit. When you put her on her back, she really can't get up. Although her grappling from the bottom is pretty good, it's not the best because we saw Jillian Robertson just ride her out, and she never really had any success on the bottom. I think she is the longer, taller, even more aggressive fighter. I think it's a super close fight, split decision fights. I hate split decision fights, especially when I know they're coming. I'll go with Courtney Casey to win this one. I think she's just a little bit more aggressive. I don't think she ever quits fighting like JJ Aldrich does. Records are horrendous. Courtney Casey's 9-8. Let's take a look at the odds now that I mention it. Actually, Courtney Casey is a plus 115 underdog. JJ coming back at a minus 135. Odds are pretty accurate. If JJ could take Courtney Casey down and hold her there and just avoid submission, she should win. But again, Courtney Casey is very opportunistic, very Carlos Condit esque. So I'll go with her to win this one by decision. Why not?
Yeah, I'm just flipping the coin, and it landed on Courtney Casey. Also, looking at her record, it looks like she alternates wins with losses, and I think this is she's going to alternate with the win this time around because I don't think JJ Aldrich has the submission prowess to submit Courtney Casey by anything really, other than boredom. Nor does she have, Cynthia Calvillo's somewhat pace. Nor does she have Michelle Watterson's, kicking game and whatnot. So I think Courtney will edge out JJ Aldrich by split decision. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Think that Courtney Casey? That's funny. I think Iron Courtney Casey would have been better than Cat. All I can think about is like making stew at this point.
Well, she can't be triple C unless she has cast iron in there.
Oh, that's right.
Triple C. Need that alliteration, man.
That would be funny. Yeah, triple C. All right, but yeah, but I'm taking Courtney by
the real triple C. Courtney.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, moving on. Next fight at featherweight, we've got Charles Jourdain versus Marcelo El Pitbull Rojo. I am excited to talk about this one because when I was doing research on this one, it was supposed to be Rojo versus Barcelos, I think. Yeah, and I think Barcelos fell off. And I immediately didn't do any research on Rojo. I'm like, you know what, Barcelos is so damn good, he's gonna whip this guy. But then when it was Charles Jourdain, I'm like, you know what? Charles Jourdain has been a little hot and cold in the UFC. Let me do a little bit of research on Marcelo Rojo. And then what I found out was that Marcelo Rojo, some guy I've never heard of before, is the guy all over the internet on Instagram primarily doing the velociraptor dance after a win. I'm like, holy shit, this is this guy. And when I was getting the pictures for the fight cards that I'm posting up, I just could not stop laughing at that picture. Like for that particular reason alone, I actually want Marcelo Rojo to win, but this is a really close fight. Although Marcelo's taking it on short notice, also Charles Jourdain is taking it on short notice as well. It's just a very up in the air type of fight because I was pretty high on Charles Jourdain when he came into the UFC. He fought Des Green at lightweight. He looked pretty good. Des Green took him down and manslaughtered him on the mat. Doo Ho Choi, the next fight, I actually picked Charles Jourdain to win that one, and he ended up winning. Actually, I think I fell asleep. in Asia, and I fell asleep, but I didn't know what happened. So I woke up and I found out that Charles Jourdain, my ticket cashed for him, so I was pretty damn happy. Caught him with a left cross, and I think because of that particular reason, I think his stock has kind of stayed moderate. His last fight after that was a split decision loss to Andre Feely, where he just got dominated on the ground. Like, it was a close fight where I think he dropped Feely, but it just wasn't enough. Feely just out. What's the word I'm looking for? He just pulled out a veteran maneuver on him and just kind of grappled him. And then the Josh Cooleybow fight, I thought Charles Jourdain was going to come in there and just run through him, but he gets dropped by Charles, or not Charles, but he gets dropped by Joshua. And it just kind of really lowered his stock with me, because although he is a really good striker, I don't know what it is about him. He just kind of stays frozen sometimes. He attempts to set up traps with his striking, but they just don't seem to affect certain guys. I really don't know. I think he's just been fighting a lot of lower level guys in like the TKO scene, where he's just running through them because he was like a double champ in that scene. And then coming into the UFC, all his tricks and moves don't really work on these higher level guys. As for Rojo, although he is like a goofy guy, he presents some dangerous aspects to the game. He has pretty wild, not accurate striking, but he's got like very wild, aggressive striking. And I like what I've seen from him. He's got a really good overhand right that he throws that doesn't seem like very powerful, but if it catches you, it will drop you. He's got a really good record. He's 16-6, although he's been fighting in like Combates America and all that. And he did lose to John Castaneda in his, I think, second to last fight. That's a bit concerning. It's something that I kind of like about the guy overall, is that he's very aggressive. He reminds me of Chito Vera in a way, where his record doesn't necessarily indicate how good he is. This might be a spot where Charles Jourdain can maybe get hurt, clipped, and maybe even knocked out, because we've seen Charles Jourdain not respect some of his opponent's striking sometimes, and it can get him in trouble. One thing about Rojo as well is that he is moving up. He's generally a 135er, but he's fighting at 145. So he might potentially have the speed advantage, but for sure he won't have the strength advantage. Doesn't really have much of an advantage overall. The odds right now, I don't believe they're out either. So I am interested to see what the odds would be, to see I might do a dog or pass type of situation. It's it's an interesting fight. I think Charles Jourdain should win this one, but again, he is kind of dumb sometimes in there. Um, I'll say if the odds are good enough, I might do a dog or pass. But yeah, I'm just gonna really enjoy this one. I think both of these guys are gonna go out there and until one of these guys falls. Power advantage, I would say, is Charles Jourdain, but the surprise advantage and the speed advantage goes to Marcelo Rojo. So just because I want to see him do the velociraptor dance inside the cage, I'm going to go with Rojo to win this one by, I'm going to say, second round TKO.
I think Rojo brings that, does bring that, not necessarily, I don't know if I want to call it surprise factor, um, but he does, I think he does, I think he is going to have an advantage over Charles Jourdain. And despite him having, a few more losses on his record, he has fought, not necessarily the best of competition, but he has fought guys with better records. In the beginning of his career, he was fighting, guys 12-2. He did lose by decision, but and he's fighting guys 14-7, 4-1, 5-9. So while these guys aren't exactly, well, I don't know if they are world champs or not, but they, well, he did fight Michael Arosa. That's interesting.
I will say, just to cut you off real quick, I found the odds. Charles Jourdain minus 250, Marcelo Rojo plus 210. Uh,
That's interesting.
that is interesting. That's what I'm saying. They put a lot of respect on Charles Jourdain, but I don't think he should be that high at all.
No, not in the least. And while he did lose to Sexy Mexi a short while ago, where it was a little bit over a year ago, uh, I wouldn't necessarily say that's that big of a stain. I think he has maybe a little bit more momentum coming into this fight compared to Jourdain, because that's weird. I was thinking whenever I think Charles Jourdain, I think of what's his name? Um, He's like a model in the middleweight division, I
Oh,
think.
Alan Joban.
Alan Jourdain. I don't know. That's weird. I was thinking of that guy. I was like, oh man, Jourdain's gonna have a day with him. I was like, oh wait, it's Charles Jourdain. Never mind. But yeah, this would be an interesting spot to take Rojo as an underdog, especially because of that velociraptor dance. So I'd say I don't think I'll take any part, but I will be taking Rojo by, I'll take close decision, maybe 29-28.
Our next matchup at lightweight, we've got one of your personal favorites, Don the Magic Man Madge versus Nasrat Haqparast. I like this one a lot because I'll be honest, I think this is a step down in competition for Nasrat because his last fight was supposed to be against Sarukian, and that would have been a really, really tough night for Nasrat. So Nasrat pulled out of that one, and now he's fighting Don Madge. Don Madge is 9-3 overall compared to Nasrat coming in at 12-3. Nasrat, he looked amazing in his first few fights in the UFC, knocking dudes out, and just his striking looked just wow, like just very impressive, very impressed with this guy. And then he fights Drew Dober, and Drew Dober just puts his lights out, and he put him out so bad that you kind of thought maybe he won't be the same ever again. He comes back and he beats the crap out of a 6-0 Alex Munoz. Although Alex Munoz is very green in the octagon, very young into his mixed martial arts career, he handled him accordingly. He beat him up. He ate his shots. He stuffed all the takedowns. So he looked impressive coming back from a pretty devastating loss, which was about a year ago. For Don Madge, on the other hand, he comes in here. He's a South African fighter. He's 30 years old. He's 6 foot tall. So he is taller than Nasrat. Nasrat's 5'10". They don't necessarily have much of a reach advantage, disadvantage 71 inches for Don Madge, 72 for Nasrat. The odds currently have it at interesting minus 275 for Nasrat, and Don Madge comes back at a plus 235. I think the odds might be a bit off, although I do agree with Nasrat being the favorite. I will go with Nasrat overall, though. I think he's just a better, cleaner striker. Watching tape on Don Madge in the UFC, he beat T. Edwards. He knocked him out, but T. Edwards wasn't really ready to be in the UFC. Like he'd lost too many fights. He just hasn't really lived up to his potential from coming from the contender series. And then his last fight versus Fares ZM, he man, I hate to say it, but there's no real other way in my vocabulary to say it. But Don Madge kind of fought like a bitch. He didn't want to strike with him. He tried taking him down. He got the decision win, but he didn't look good in that win. I'd be embarrassed to even bring him back to the UFC. It's like, what were you doing, Dooley? You just held him up against the cage. He got the win, but he just wasn't comfortable striking with a guy who was a better striker than him, at least what he considers to be a better striker than himself. I do like Don Madge, though. He's very aggressive. He throws head kicks. He's just aggressive with his ground and pound as well. But I think Nasrat is just the overall better, cleaner striker and fighter. I will go with Nasrat to win this one, potentially even, man, I want to say a TKO, but in reality, I think Nasrat just pieces him up on the ground, or not ground, but on the feet, and even on the ground, he'll take him down, ground and pound him. There's a chance that Don Madge might be able to catch Nasrat with a high kick or just a really clean punch, because at this point, we're not really sure how good Nasrat's chin is. Maybe he underestimated Drew Dober in that fight, which caused him to get his lights put out. But overall, when it comes to the fighter itself, I think Nasrat is just more complete than Don Madge. So I'll go with not Don Madge, with Nasrat to beat Don Madge by a decision.
I agree. I think Nasrat has what it takes to take out Don Madge. I don't know if he's going to take him out to dinner, um, but I do believe he is going to get the decision here. I don't, and while I'm hoping that Don Madge comes out in a cape and top hat, maybe pulls a rabbit out of said hat during the weigh-ins, I don't think he's going to have enough magic to take out Nasrat. And I know what everybody's thinking. Oh, Nasrat, got lucky in his last time around with Alex Munoz. But no, he has been training with his twin over at King's MMA, and his twin being Kelvin Gastelum, because these guys are like mirror images of each other. I think they're the same height. I think they go to the same barber. But no, he has not been training with Kelvin Gastelum. He, I think he just has a bit more. I think he's just a bit sharper at this point. While I don't see Nasrat challenging for the title anytime soon, I think he is. I think his career, his MMA career is on an upward trend. Versus Don Madge, he's kind of either flat or maybe on his way down, considering how old he is. He's 30 years old isn't necessarily over the hill at any point, and he is on a 5-5 win streak. He isn't on a win streak against particularly impressive competition, I want to say, and he has been out. I would say Nasrat has been busier. He has been out for about a year and a half. Excuse me, the Magic Man, that is, has been out for a year and a half. Nasrat has been a little bit busier. He fought twice within the last year or so. He did lose to Drew Dober by knockout. But I think with his most recent win, he showed that his brains and his chin are ready to go. And so I'm taking Nasrat by decision, even though he is, he's going to be, similar to Gastelum, going to be at a height disadvantage. 2 inches isn't all that much, and oddly enough, he's going to have the reach advantage. So that's kind of weird. He's going to be the stumpier guy with the Stretch Armstrong type arms. But I am taking Nasrat just due to him having, I think, a slightly better skill set. And I think he's going to probably just bring it. Well, at least I'm hoping he'll bring it with the smaller cage. Don Madge won't have anywhere to hide here. Not that he's going to, I think I foresee Don just backing up a lot of the fight, and trying to catch Nasrat. I think Nasrat's going to push the pace. Again, I'll take Nasrat by maybe 29-28, I think, at the very least, if not 30-27. Decision.
Our next matchup at bantamweight, we've got Hani Yahya versus Ray, the Judge Rodriguez. I'll start off with the odds on this one because I think they're kind of nuts. Minus 290 for Hani Yahya. Rodriguez comes back at a plus 245. And although that's not betting odds, I got to say those are pretty accurate. This is one of those, like, you have to show me something fights when it comes to Ray Rodriguez, because he's got a very interesting matchup for him. His last fight was against Brian Kelleher. And from what I remember about that fight is that Rodriguez kind of gave him the choke. I think he just went into it like, there you go, happy birthday. And he just gave up the choke and he got choked out in the first round. Although he did take the fight on short notice to get him into the UFC, it's a fight where, if you're fighting Brian Kelleher, you have to fight him the way you have to fight him. You don't go up to him against the cage or anywhere near him and engage in the grappling, and especially go for a takedown or anything dumb like that. When it comes to Rani Yahya, he's the aging veteran, right? He's been in this fight game for a long time. He's beat some of the better guys out there. If you're not on his level, he will make you look like a fool. The last guy to beat Rani Yahya is Ricky Simon. And frankly, that's one of the most impressive wins on Ricky Simon's resume. The way he handled Rani Yahya was incredible. Because of that particular fight, I thought, hey, his next fight against Enrique Barzola, I'm just going to fade Rani Yahya. I think Barzola's got the wrestling, just beat him up and take him down. Although I think he went down in weight for this one. I can't remember. I think, yeah, Barzola went down in weight. It landed as a draw, and Ronnie actually looked pretty impressive. I was, shedding myself because I had a parlay with Barzola, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose this parlay, and like, blah. Luckily, it was a draw, and I got some of my money back. But he did concern me because he looked not his age. He's 36 years old, and he looked pretty damn good. his grappling looked good and very impressive. Um, it's hard for me to say that the odds are worth me picking Yaya in any sort of way. If anything, potentially submission, because it's Ronnie Yaya. He's a fantastic grappler, jiu-jitsu artist. Ray Rodriguez, though, he's good. He has to show me something in the UFC. He's knocked out some pretty good guys. He beat Jimmy Flick in the regional scene, and we know how good Jimmy Flick is now, especially with his grappling. He's honestly, at this point, I'd love to see a matchup between Jimmy Flick and Hanayaya. Um, but man, I cannot pick Ray Rodriguez. I'm not going to say that he doesn't have a chance, because the odds seemingly indicate that Ronnie Aya is going to come in here and just beat him up and take the neck or whatever he wants. But I see some potential in Ray Rodriguez. I think he might be the tougher, harder hitting guy. It's just that as long as he avoids getting choked or submitted in any sort of way, I think he can win this fight. But he's going up against Hani Hayan. Man, although he hasn't fought in 11 months, I think this might be one of those situations where the aging veteran might actually potentially retire with a win. I will go with Yaya to win by submission. might say even around number 2. I think he uses his grappling to take down Rodriguez and just kind of control him. Rodriguez might get tired. Second round, rinse and repeat, but this time Yaya gets the submission. So I'll go with Yaya to win by submission. I might even say a north-south choke.
I mean, I'm taking Yaya, but I'm not calling him Honey. I don't care. I don't care what what the odds are. I can't look another guy in the eye and just call him Honey, even though that's how you spell, even though that's how they pronounce the R's as an H. Anyway, um, now the reason I'm taking him is just due to the fact that Ray Rodriguez is not UFC caliber material. He lost to Tony Gravely by KO a little over about a year and a half ago in the Contender Series. Didn't look too good. He then went on back to Combate Americas. He beat Andy Perez by submission. Not what I'd call a great win. And then he came back and lost to Brian Kelleher. He just decided, you know what, this is too much for me. And he just kind of gave up the guillotine. And now I would say, Ronnie, in the last 2 years or so, he hasn't looked all that great. And funny thing, when I first looked at Enrique Barzola, I thought of Edson Barboza. I was like, damn, he came to a draw with Edson Barboza a little less than a year ago. That's crazy. But then my brain, it's like snapped back. So I don't know. It's Barzola. It's the lesser of the Barbozas. But he's, a draw and a loss in with his last 2 fights may seem like while he is on a downward trend, he's toward the tail end of his career. And it wouldn't be, as you mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if he retires after this fight. I think he will definitely get this fight, and I see Ray Rodriguez just giving up. I don't know, maybe a combination triangle, arm bar, and heel hook all at the same time. He's going to get like a triple submission on Ray Rodriguez. He's going to get the first triple submission in the history of the UFC or MMA. Or who knows, quadruple. He might get him in a guillotine as well. I don't know how he's going to do it, or if that makes any sense, but I wouldn't be surprised, man. Ray's, I don't know what he's judging, but he's, I don't know, his nickname just makes 0 sense to me. I don't mean to shit on the guy, but whatever. And while it looks like they're about even with it when it comes to height and reach, according to Tapology, Ray Rodriguez has a 3-inch reach advantage, but I don't think that's going to matter here. I think I think Ronnie's going to just wrap him up like an egg McMuffin and take him to town, take him to dinner. I don't know what I'm trying to get with that, but I'm taking Ronnie by submission. in the second, and he's going to get that triple submission I mentioned. He's going to get a triangle, an arm bar, and a heel hook, and a rear naked choke at the same time. So picture that. There you go.
Our next matchup at strawweight, we've got Jin Frey versus Gloria De Paula. They are fighting for the title of which woman gets to take home my heart. Because I am very smitten with Jin Frey, and I'll go out and say I'm very, very biased when it comes to her. I'll pick her to win every single fight. As for Gloria De Paula, very, very attractive woman. And I'm talking about their looks, but in reality, they do have very good skill sets. And I really am looking forward to this matchup, primarily because I am actually a fan of Jin Frey. She won me over with her fight with Kay Hansen because Kay Hansen was supposed to come in here and just dominate Jin Frey from bell to bell, get the submission, and just walk out. And all is right with the world. But Jin Frey did not allow that to happen. She looked really good in those first 2.5 rounds, and then she did eventually succumb to the armbar triangle. But things happen, and then her fight after that was versus Luma Lukbumi. And when you're a Muay Thai fighter and you're fighting an actual Thai Muay Thai fighter, it's really hard to beat them. So I'm going to give her a slide for that. As for Gloria De Paula, she looked very impressive, at least in my memory, versus Pauline Macias, which is a judo practitioner. I think she's like a Ronda Rousey BFF type of character. And she looked pretty good. She went in there and handled her accordingly. She had maybe one rocky moment. And other than that, she just was the aggressive fighter. She outworked her on the ground, really pieced her up on the feet. Although she looked impressive, there was one moment where I'm like, you've got the anaconda slash Darce choke locked in. How can you not finish it? Like, it's dead to rights, but she just kind of rode the first round against Macias in that position. And it almost seemed like, although she's a good grappler, she didn't know how to complete that submission, which kind of left me with like question marks. I'm like, what is going on? She is currently the favorite. I think the odds right now have her at, keep losing the odds, man. Where'd they go? Yeah, minus 160 for Gloria De Paula. Jin Frey comes back at a plus 140. Very interesting. I'll be up front. When it comes to Jin Frey, she's very good at striking. It's just that her grappling is the weakest link. Her takedown defense is shown to be very impressive. I think they are both Muay Thai practitioners, so we get to see who the better one is. At this point, everything's leaning towards De Paula being the overall better fighter. So, say if anything gets hairy in the fight, Gloria might go for the takedown. What concerns me is the height and reach advantage. If Jin Frey was a bit bigger, I think I might potentially go with her to get the decision win. But because Gloria De Paula is taller, she's 5'5" compared to Jin Frey 5'3", her reach advantage is 2.5 reach advantage for Gloria De Paula. She's one of these like pit bull type of Brazilian fighters. I think if things get a little hairy for her, she'll just kind of go in berserker mode and win rounds. I don't really think either of them have the downright power to hurt the other. I will go with I'll go with Gloria De Paula to win this one by a decision. It might get close. Man, I really would hate to see Jin Frey go to 3-0 or 0-3 in the UFC. I'm really rooting for her to win. Like, I just like her. I think she's gorgeous, and she really rocks the hell out of that Wonder Woman costume. She looks just like her. Um, yeah, I'm very smitten with her. I really like her, but I got to go with Gloria De Paula to win this one by decision. But hopefully, Jin Frey gets on track.
Sounds like you have some sort of fever there, regarding Jin Frey. No, who am I kidding? I have the same fever. She's yeah, man. She is, the right combination of and mm-hmm. But it's funny. I know the odds and common sense. With anybody taking even a semi close look at both fighters, points to Gloria being the being the better fighter overall. But I think Jin Frey, take a look at her record. I think she's fought the better competition. Even though her record, isn't the greatest at 9-6, she did has fought the better competition. I don't think. Well, I think Gloria is her career is probably on an upward trajectory. She's coming into the UFC. She did well. She didn't fight UFC caliber competition in Pauline Macias. She did get the decision a few months ago, but I think I was taking a look at her age, and I thought she was actually younger. I think she was actually 35. She doesn't look 35 off the bat, or maybe they're just using an older picture on Tapology. But I guess I am being biased because I am seeing stars whenever I look at her. Or I hear that Dreamweaver song playing in the background, and everything goes fuzzy. So I am hoping Ginny Frey wins. For my heart's sake. But reality is Gloria might pull out at least the upset, because in my heart, Ginny Frey is the favorite, and Gloria's the underdog. But in reality, Gloria, everybody's giving Gloria the respect that I don't know if she deserves just yet, because she needs to, I think, prove herself in the UFC first off. So I am going to take Ginny Frey as an underdog. Definitely staying away from her, in the betting window. But I don't know. Maybe I am being biased towards Ginny Frey because I think she is amazing. But I'll take her by decision, just mainly based off of, I think she has fought the better competition, even though I think she hasn't done all that much to improve her skill set. While having been in the UFC, I think she's had the time to make certain improvements, improve, as you mentioned, her ground game, improve her both her defensive and offensive wrestling, and improve her striking. But I don't think she's made those improvements. So I'm not going to say she's going to run away with the victory here, but I think she could probably pull it off 29-28. I think her back is definitely against the wall. So I'm hoping she has that fire lit up under her for this fight, because I'd hate for her to go away into obscurity and join Bellator or something where we'll never see her again.
Our next matchup at welterweight, we've got the Vanilla Gorilla Jason Witt versus Matthew, the worst nickname in the UFC, Semelsberger, Semi the Jedi. Although he has a horrible nickname, I actually do like what I've seen from him. Not to say that I'm impressed, but his last fight, or his first fight in the UFC, I should say, against Carlton Minus, he came in here as a huge underdog. I think it was like a plus 250 or something, and he beat up Carlton Minus. And then just, thinking about it, Carlton Minus doesn't belong in the UFC. I don't know what we saw in him. Yeah, he was, I don't know. I was never impressed by him, and I'm baffled that he was ever that high of a favorite in that fight, because Matthew Semelsberger just beat him up. He was just you could say the argument that he might have been getting outstruck at certain points in the fight with Carlton Minus, but he landed the harder fights and he just outmanned him, if you know what I'm saying. Jason Witt, on the other hand, he comes back after losing to Takashi Sato very quickly. He gets knocked out, and he comes back and he pretty much dominates Cole Williams. He's a decorated grappler himself, not necessarily a jiu-jitsu guy, but a wrestler. He just takes him down and beats him up and hurts him. I will say, though, I was leaning towards Jason Witt just without watching tape, because the perception of, hey, trains in Kansas City with James Krause, and man, James Krause, he deserves to have that recognition. When you think of great coaches like Firas Zahabi, Jackson Wink, that camp, you have to really put that respect on James Krause, because he does really do something to these fighters, and he makes them smarter when it comes to fighting. Because what I saw in that matchup between him and Cole Williams, Jason Witt, that is, I saw a guy who knew where his strengths were, and I saw a guy who was willing to listen to his coach, because he had Cole Williams on the ground in front of his corner with James Krause just yelling instructions at him, and he was attempting to pass guard, and James Krause is like, do not pass guard, don't do anything, just stay in the guard and just beat him up from there. And he listened, and he listened to his coach, and I like to see that. Like, you have to trust your coach, especially one that's smart like James Krause. And then he just dominated him on the ground and eventually got the arm triangle. The thing I didn't like about that fight with him and Cole Williams is that his striking looked horrendous. Like he looked terrified to stand and bang or do any sort of actual striking with Cole Williams. And saying that is a bit, asinine. I'm like, why are you doing that, dude? Like, just, I know you have your game plan, but don't be afraid. As for Matthew Semelsberger, he's not afraid to do anything. He'll go out there and stand and bang with you. And that does pose a concern. So it kind of changes my perception of this fight. Currently, we have Jason Witt plus 130, Matthew Semelsberger minus 150. I think the odds are they're accurate, but it could go either way, honestly. You could have Matthew Semelsberger as the underdog, and I wouldn't really bat an eye, but I understand why Jason Witt is the underdog because he got knocked out by a power puncher, and Semelsberger is a big power puncher. He's 6'1", 75-inch reach compared to 5'10" and a 70-inch reach for Jason Witt. Jason Witt has to take this to the ground, implement his ground and pound. The only concern is that when they're out in the open, I can see Semelsberger catching him with an uppercut or something impactful that's going to cause Jason Witt to kind of panic. We'll see how well his striking has evolved. I can't really say that I want to put a bet on Matthew Semelsberger, though. He has to show me more because beating Carlton minus does not do it for me. He looked good in that fight, but he beat a guy who, I do not believe he belongs in the UFC. Cole Williams as well. That's Jason Witt's last opponent. He also really doesn't belong, but he finished his fight and he implemented his game plan as he intended to and as he needed to. So I think Jason Witt will attempt that as well. Yeah, I'll go with Jason Witt to win this one, more or less the same exact way, with implementing ground and pound and then just switching to a submission, maybe another arm triangle. He's a really strong and powerful guy, man. The way he handled Cole Williams, he just lifted him up and slammed him. He picked him up Matt Hughes style from one end of the cage and dropped him over to his corner. I'm like, that's impressive. So I'll go with Jason Witt to win. Reminds me of Matt Hughes in that sense. So I'll go with Jason Witt to win by submission round number 2.
I agree. I think he is set to Jason Witt, that is, for another submission win. Well, I don't think. Actually, I was taking a look at Matthew's nickname, and I think it's maybe Semi the Jedi. Would that make sense?
Whatever, man. I do not agree with that nickname.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's just I guess maybe rhyming. Anyway, well, Semelsberger has 4 wins on his. He's on a 4-fight win streak. His only win in the UFC against Carlton minus. I'm not sure if I'd necessarily, jump on the the Jedi's hype train at this point. Wasn't all that impressive. Was a decision, versus actually getting a submission, for Cole Williams on Jason Witt's side. And I actually do remember the knockout for Takashi Sato 7 months ago. I believe I was on Sato's side for that end. I think I flipped the coin. I'm like, all right, I'm going with Sato, and he just happened to get that KO, TKO, I should say. And I don't think Semelsberger has the same power as Sato, and I think his ground game is just gonna take over. Starting maybe toward the end of the first round, going into the second round, and then Semelsberger is just going to be too deep of water to really do anything. I think he's going to give up rear naked. After see Witt taking his back, and Semelsberger just giving up the rear naked choke second round. So I'll also be going with Witt by second round submission.
Our next matchup at bantamweight, we've got Jonathan Dragon Martinez versus Dangerous Davy Grant. I'll be quick with this one. I've not really been impressed with Davy Grant, although he has made a lot of improvements in his striking. He's primarily like a grappler type of guy, but his fight with Martin Day, where he knocked out Martin Day cold, I actually had Martin Day to win that fight, and Davy Grant just ruined my tickets. But I will say he looked good. Like, he looked more comfortable striking. It's just that he had some hairy moments with Martin Day. I think had he not landed that devastating left hook on Martin Day, I think Martin Day would have taken that fight. Jonathan Martinez, my biggest concern with Jonathan is that sometimes he kind of lays back. He looks good on a lot of his fights, just that sometimes he doesn't always pull the trigger. Like his fight with Andre Ewell, to this day, I will say that was a robbery. I thought man, that's just Texas, get your shit together. He has looked impressive as of late, but I always have that in the back of my mind that I've seen Jonathan Martinez kind of be a little too laid back in the cage. Although I haven't seen that lately, he did knock out Frankie Saenz exactly like I said he would, with a knee up the middle and then ground and pound. He's been progressively getting more and more aggressive. It's just that I'm always afraid if I had one negative comment to say about Jonathan Martinez is that I'm a little afraid that he might not pull the trigger sometimes, but that's not really been the case as of late. The odds right now have it at wow, plus 250 for Davy Grant, minus 300 for Jonathan Martinez. I don't like those odds at all. It should be a little closer. For sure, Martinez should be the favorite, but that high of a favorite, I can't I can't do it, man. I can see ways that Davy Grant can win this fight, maybe stalling the fight against the cage, you know, avoiding the kicks. Jonathan Martinez has some fantastic teeps up the middle, a lot of really nice kicks. He's a more of a kick heavy guy, knee up the middle type of guy. His boxing is good. It's just not overly impressive. It's yeah, man. I don't like those odds at all. I'll stay away from it. I will go to with the Martinez side to win this one, potentially a knockout, but I'm leaning more towards a decision. So I'll go with Martinez to win this one by a decision.
I agree. Those odds are insane. I don't think Martinez should be a 3-1 favorite. Uh, I think he's, if even if he was a border 2-1 favorite, I think that'd still be pretty high. I think the odds should be in the minus 100 plus 100 area. I think Martinez should still be the favorite, but I think it should be a lot closer than that. Odds are definitely inflated, and I think Davy is on the tail end of his career, especially being in the lighter weight divisions, and yeah, at those odds, man, I don't see a ton of value on Davy Grant, but maybe sprinkling a little bit uh, on Davy would maybe it would be interesting, in case he does pull off an upset. I don't think it would be a huge upset, but if he does pull off that upset, then you'd be in the plus money, so that wouldn't be too bad. This is a this is closer to a coin flip fight, just due to I don't think Davy Grant is going to be able to pull off some sort of even a 2-round dominate. Even if he pulls off say dominating the first, giving up the second, and dominating the third sort of situation on Martinez. I think Martinez has youth as well as and Davy Grant. I think Davy Grant is fighting up. No, excuse me. No, I'm sorry. Martinez is fighting down weight, but I think his youth and maybe his volume is going to be more than Davy Grant can handle at this point. I think at 35 years old, maybe he's feeling it. His joints aren't. Who knows? I'm just talking about that. Not really. I don't really see this fight being too competitive. I think Martinez is going to have just enough volume to pull it off. So I'll give him at least 29-28 decision over Davy Grant. But those odds, yeah, I'm staying far away from this fight.
Before we begin with the main card opener, just asking you guys, really appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe. Look at our new little graphic that we have up on the screen now. Maybe that'll compel you to like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, we'd really appreciate it. And then to start off our main card, we've got a banger. We've got at featherweight Dan 50K Ige versus Gavin Governor Tucker. Man, I love this matchup. I love it. I'll start off with the odds. The odds are ridiculous. Minus 125 and for Dan Ige, and then plus 105 for Gavin Tucker. The reason I say they're ridiculous is because I really thought Gavin Tucker would be the favorite. And coming off a loss, Dan Ige against Calvin Kattar, for him to be a favorite, maybe I'm missing something. I like Dan Ige quite a bit. He's really made me some money. He made me money with Edson Barboza, thank the judges, and he made some money for me with Mirsad Bektik. Man, it's like he's been consistently overperforming. But then he ran up against the guy who just wouldn't take his shit, and that was Calvin Kattar. And Calvin Kattar just beat him up for 5 rounds. Man, I've also counted out Gavin Tucker. He's lost me some money. I bet Billy Quarantillo against him, and he beat Billy. I This is embarrassing, but I had Justin James to beat him, and he beat Justin James. He had a hairy moment in there where he got dropped by James, but he came back and he won. I bet Sung Woo Choi to beat him, and he handled Sung Woo Choi. Although there were some hairy moments in that fight as well, he submitted him. Um, the Rick Glenn fight is a thing that happened, what, 3.5 years ago almost. And that's kind of the turning point for Gavin Tucker. A lot of the time I kept thinking to myself, like, yeah, that Rick Glenn fight leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, where he got destroyed and he had to go away for a few years and come back. And then, made me really realize maybe this guy isn't who I think he is, but he has been proving me wrong each and every time. And I've counted him out so many times. My only concern with him is that he's, what, 30, almost 35 years old. It's a very interesting matchup because Gavin Tucker's striking is pretty damn good. I've always really been impressed by his striking when he first came into the UFC and he fought Sam Sicilia in Canada. He just whipped his ass. I was very impressed by it. He had a very Dominic Cruz style switch stancing type of approach to his striking, which I liked. It wasn't as Dominic Cruz as Dominic Cruz is, of course, but his striking was good enough to kind of throw off Sam Sicilia. And it was nice. I think he's gotten a little bit beefier. He's gotten more power behind his punches. And the one thing that really impressed me his last fight was his cardio management and his grappling. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he was good enough to beat Billy Q, and I was really high on Billy Q. As for Dan Ige, although he's made me a ton of money in the past, his fight with Calvin Kattar kind of, I don't want to say exposed him, because he fought a top 10 guy and Calvin Kattar's striking is just ridiculous. It's just that it kind of showed that if he can't really get off on what he's doing, Danny Gay, that is, he kind of tends to fall into complacency. And I just saw him kind of like a deer in the headlights with Calvin Kattar, because if we look back, the way Dan Ige tends to fight is that he either dominates you on the ground or he beats you up on the feet. And there's certain guys that if they are equally as good on the ground and on the feet, he might not have that same success. And I think Gavin Tucker might be that type of guy. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Danny Gay comes here with a better skill set, more fluid striking, more power behind his punches, and even knocks out Gavin Tucker, because Gavin Tucker's chin isn't really the greatest, in my opinion, but it's good enough. This is going to be a really, really fun fight. I actually have Gavin Tucker to win this one. I think he might even implement his grappling, because we've seen Dan Ige kind of taken down by Mirsad Bektik and then kind of held there. But Mirsad Bektik is kind of a mental lapser. He kind of wants to lose subconsciously for whatever reason. He might be a masochist. He just really likes to get beat. But I will go with Gavin Tucker to win this one. Really close, really fun fight. Potential. I'm going to say this is fight of the night for me, because it could go really either way. But I will go with the underdog to win this one, Gavin Tucker. I've counted him out too many times. I think he'll win this one. He might even prove me wrong and just lose to, shut me up and take more of my money. But I'm still going to go with the risk of going with Gavin Tucker to win this one by decision.
I think this is definitely fight of the night waiting to happen. I can see why they wanted to open the main card with this, because it's kind of goes. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the card, but this is definitely the highlight of the. This could. I think this could easily have been a better main main card. Excuse me, I should say main. Could have easily been the main event of the card, I should say. Gavin Tucker. I think this is an interesting fight just due to their fighting styles. Gavin Tucker, he's shown that he can dominate with his Muay Thai leg uh, leg strike heavy offense. He has some really great kicks. He showed against Justin James, as well as Billy Q. His Muay Thai striking game has come a long way, and I didn't realize. I thought it was just kind of a one-off against Justin James, and unfortunately, I had jumped on the Justin James hype train at that point, and we all saw what Justin James is incapable of. Meanwhile, Gavin Tucker came out and just dominated that fight. His Muay Thai is fantastic. His leg strikes and uh, and his um, his boxing is really really good. He just manages to leverage those kicks. He has via his stance. He's not. I think he's the opposite of Danny Gay in that he's not going to jump around a lot. Get certain angles. He kind of waits for guys to come in and he just bombards them with his heavy kicks and his boxing as well. And while a loss to Calvin Cater doesn't look all that great, Calvin did get pieced up by Max Holloway a short while ago. And Dan in that fight showed that he didn't have necessarily what it takes to make the necessary adjustments. That fight differs a lot from this one in that Gavin Tucker's actually, according to this, he's a little shorter than Danny Gay, so he's not going to be at a height or reach disadvantage. If anything, he's going to have a 1 inch height and 5-6 inch reach advantage. Probably is a little bit less. But what I see in this fight is I actually see Gavin Tucker just piecing him up every time Dan Ige comes in for a jab or a cross or something. I think Gavin's going to be waiting for him with those heavy leg kicks and try to add to that by striking combo with a cross or a straight. I think he's going to piece up his, as is the trend now with the calf kicks. I think he's going to bust them up. I think he's going to bust Ige up with those calf kicks. I think even at 34 years old, he's having somewhat of a late career resurgence. Being that he's 34 years old, he isn't. I actually thought it was reversed. I thought he was actually the younger guy, but turns out Ige just hasn't aged well, I guess. But this is definitely going to be the fireworks fight of the night. I see Gavin Tucker taking this by decision. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out or submit Ige. I think Ige is a little bit too tough for that, but he's definitely going to bust up his legs for sure. So I'm actually tempted to go with Tucker on this one, especially at underdog money.
Our next matchup at heavyweight, we've got Big Ben Rothwell versus Felipe Monstro Lins. I'll start off with the odds on this one. We've got Ben Rothwell minus 125, Felipe Lins plus 105. Very close fight. It really is. I don't want to spend too much time on it because Felipe Lins has looked very unimpressive in his UFC tenure. He lost to Andrei Arlovsky. Very, very understandable. Andrei Arlovsky will make certain dudes look bad that try to headhunt. If you think you're going to go in there and knock his head off because it's happened so many times before, he'll, dance circles around you, jab you, and power punch you at the end of the round and just take the decision. And that happened to Felipe Lins. No real shame in that. Tanner Boser knocks you out. That's a problem. Tanner Boser's not really a power puncher. He's more of a speed puncher. Man, I don't know, man. It's good for him that he won the PFL $1 million, title or whatever the hell you call it, the tournament. But he was fighting lesser competition, and in certain matchups, he didn't really look all that great. He just kind of lingers too much and lets other people, I don't know, into a false sense of security. Then that's when he strikes. As for Ben Rothwell, He has not looked impressive in quite some time. Since his USADA pop, he's really looked bad. Like he lost to Arlovsky as well. Again, no shame in that. After that, he knocks out Stefan Struve, but in that fight, really heartbreaking for Stefan Struve because Struve was beating him up every single exchange. He was just doing everything better. And then Rothwell, and I'm not going to say Rothwell meant to kick him in the balls. It's just that I understand it. You're trying to kick to the body at a 7 foot tall guy, and the body that you normally kick is maybe like a 6'4", 6'2" type of guy. And the testicles are just higher up in the air. So you just accidentally keep hitting him there. And I could see Ben Rothwell being upset, like, oh no, I did it again. Like he doesn't mean to do it. But he did take advantage of that. And I forgot, I think it was Dan Mergliata who was like, you can, if you continue, you're winning the match. I know you're hurt. It's just like he took advantage of that. Stefan Struve tried to tough it out. He tried to pull a Yamasaki and be a warrior, and it didn't work out for him. He ended up getting TKO'd by Ben Rothwell. So it's a bit of a stain type of fight. The Oven St. Preux fight, Rothwell just really outweighted him, although Rothwell at the end was kind of getting a little pieced up and touched. And then Marcin Tybura, just Marcin Tybura, Ben Rothwell. I do just get it out of the way. I'll go with Rothwell to win this one. I think he's the rightful favorite. Felipe Lins hasn't looked very impressive. If he wins this fight, I wouldn't be surprised. If he knocks him out, I might actually be surprised because Ben Rothwell's got one of those weird legendary type chins. He's never really been really knocked out clean. He's used that to his advantage, like even with the Overeem fight where Overeem's just beating him up. He walks forward and just clips him the back of the head and beats up Overeem. And then he does that funky little dance. So that he's got that for him. He's a tougher guy. So if this becomes a in pocket exchange between these two, I think Ben Rothwell will be the bigger guy. He'll take the punches and potentially clip Felipe Lins. I'll go with Rothwell to win this one, maybe by first round knockout. I will say that's very, very unlikely. It's more than likely going to be a Rothwell decision, but I'll go with a knockout round number one.
Yeah, I agree. I was confusing Felipe Lins or somebody else. Um, this other dude, I forgot his name. I think he's also Brazilian, possibly. But yeah, Rothwell has not looked great in the last. Let's see, has not looked great in the last 5 years or so. Ever since his loss to Junior Dos Santos, he has been going downhill. He hasn't, his wins over Struve and OSP aren't exactly feathers in his hat. Yeah, that 3 year layoff due to his he popped for whatever. It didn't do him any didn't do him any good apparently because he didn't bother. I don't know. I guess he didn't bother training or whatever the case. I guess maybe he was just relying on whatever he popped on to get him through these fights. But yeah, he looked terrible in the Tybura fight. Tybura just did what he does, and I don't think Philippe Lins has that. Is going to have the same either game plan or ability to just hold him up against a cage and make it look like he's give the judges the impression of him dominating in any way whatsoever. Even though Philippe Lin does have, I guess, a slightly better record at 14-5 versus 30-3. Rothwell does have all that experience, but being that he is not in the greatest of shape these days, I think he's probably going to come out with the same game plan like he did with Tybura, just sloppily throwing, punches and bunches, and just smothering Philippe Lins with jabs and those sloppy punches, and getting the decision that way. And despite the aggressive looking picture that they have of Philippe Lins on Tapology, where he's screaming after some sort of victory or something, maybe against Josh Copeland or Jared Rosholt. I remember that guy, Jared Rosholt. His fighting style is not as aggressive as that picture that they have up on him on Tapology. So I'm going to take Ben Rothwell by decision in a very uneventful fight. I think he's just going to have the volume where he's just gonna kind of, yeah, man, I was really disappointed in the Tybura fight, and I see more of that happening. I don't think he's improved in any way whatsoever, being at 39 years old. Yeah, so I guess we'll see Ben Rothwell back for another fight after he gets a decision here, but who knows? With the UFC recently cutting Dos Santos and Overeem, who knows if they're going to have room for sloppy Rothwell even with the win.
Our next matchup at middleweight, we've got Eric Ya Boy Anders versus Darren the Dentist Stewart. The odds are currently minus 175 for Darren. The comeback is plus 155 for Eric Anders. Uh, a lot closer than I thought. Man, Eric Anders is, I don't know, man. I hate to say it, but I think he might be getting cut soon because his last performances have been really an indicator that I think his body just can't take it anymore. And it all started with that Khalil Roundtree fight where Khalil just destroyed him and he essentially knocked him out multiple times in that fight. That was almost 2 years ago, but it's so fresh in my memory that when I found out, oh yeah, Eric Anders has fought 3 times since then, it kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, he knocked out Vinicius Morea and he went to a split with Gerald Mearshart. Then after that, he lost to Jotko. But Jotko, although his shortcomings are apparent, he's a really good fighter and he deserves to be pretty highly ranked. Maybe not top 10, but top 15. Darren the Dentist Stewart, he lost to Kevin Holland in a split decision. Kevin Holland's one of the better fighters in the UFC right now. The way he's just been going at it and the way he destroyed Jacare was just like, man, he keeps getting progressively better. And there was a very close fight between those two. Um, so much so that even Kevin Holland's like, yeah, I'll give him a rematch. And we know how Kevin Holland is. He's not really he's not a guy that makes excuses. He's like, yeah, it was a close fight. So fight before that was Maki Pitolo. Maki Pitolo was so afraid of Darren Stewart's power that he decided to go for a takedown, thinking, yeah, I'm a wrestler now. And then he gets caught in a guillotine, which is like, what the hell? Like, for real? This British dude who is primarily a kickboxer is getting guillotine chokes. Like, he's working on his overall game. He has progressively been impressing me throughout his tenure. I know he's lost a couple fights. He lost to Bartosz Szczerbiński in Cage Warriors in one of those weird COVID type of fights where, hey, we have this fight on our card, but we can't do it because of regulations. Blah, blah, blah. Let's do it at Cage Warriors. That did surprise me. Like, wow, how did he lose to Bartos? Like, he's getting better. He was able to stuff the takedowns of Daron Win, who was a highly touted wrestler, but he wasn't able to, out maneuver and out wrestle Verbinski. Despite that, I am more impressed with Darren Stewart. I think his power is there. I think his wrestling is there. I think his submissions are progressively getting better. As for Eric Anders, unfortunately, he's just a powerhouse type of guy with essentially, I hate to say it, just a left hand. I haven't really been overall impressed by him. He gets some UFC wins, but I think he had one of those momentum shifts where he looked impressive coming in. They try to push this guy. He was a former football player and they really try to push him to the moon and they gave him Machida. Machida gave him that vet lesson. And then since then, he's kind of been hot and cold. You know, I don't know, man. Something about Eric Anders just kind of gives me the impression that he's just not UFC caliber and he shouldn't have been in the UFC as quickly as he was. He should have progressed his skills outside in lesser organizations and then been brought in once he's maybe taken a loss and learned how to implement different game plans. One of the most concerning fights was with him and Maheta Santos, where he moved up to light heavyweight to fight him. And I don't know, man, he took a beating in that one. Like, he exhausted his cardio. I became a fan of him that night when he mentioned on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Instagram, that like he hasn't been that tired since his wedding night. I'm like, oh, he knows how to handle a loss, but he lost to Elias Theodorou, man. I can't really. trust a guy who loses to Elias via split decision. Like he tends to not pull the trigger. He's a habitual non-trigger puller, and I just can't bet on him. I think the odds are perfect. This might be a max bet season for Darren Stewart. So I'm going to go with Darren Stewart to win this one. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it anyway, but I will go by knockout. I think he just hits too damn hard. I wouldn't be surprised if he hurts him and goes for a guillotine. But yeah, I've got Darren Stewart to win. I think he's just the better fighter, the younger fighter, hasn't taken nearly as much damage. Darren Stewart to win this one by second round knockout.
Yeah, so Eric Anders. He is not my boy. Yeah, he is definitely going to lose this fight. And the reason for that is Darren Stewart, even though he did lose to Kevin Holland, I was definitely impressed by how he went toe to toe with Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland is, one of those guys that has a lot of warranted hype behind him. He just doesn't have like one win, and he's like, oh, this guy's the next, maybe the next champion or whatnot. This guy, Kevin Holland, he's on a streak right now, and I think Darren Stewart actually has given Kevin Holland the toughest fight in his last few fights in Kevin Holland's streak. Darren Stewart was throwing bombs at Kevin Holland, and Holland was just taking them, and they were going at each other. I think maybe if it had been a 5-round fight, I honestly don't know how much punishment, how many bombs Kevin Holland can take, but in a 5-round fight, I'd be interested to see a 5-round fight between Stewart and Holland. I think Stewart would just, I don't know, man. He just has that. He's kind of sort of, I don't know if it makes sense, but he's sort of the opposite of Derek Lewis, and that Derek Lewis, conserves his energy, and he just has bursts of, of energy, and he throws those bombs every now and again, like he caught Volkov with, and that he recently caught Blades with. Darren Stewart is the opposite, man. He conserves no energy. Like all his, he should be coconut bombs. He should have taken that nickname away from Maki Pitolo.
I got the perfect explanation for Darren Stewart. He's the anti Tyron Woodley.
Oh, there you go.
Even though they look very similar. I'm not gonna lie, I almost put a picture of Tyron Woodley for Darren Stewart, but I'm like, no, that might get me in trouble. Even though the joke is that they look alike.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go that route.
Yeah. Well, that would honestly be an insult to Darren Stewart, because even though he did, he has alternated wins and losses in the last few fights. I do have a lot of respect for him after the Kevin Holland fight, even though he did end up on the losing side. I think Eric Anders is just not going to be able to keep up with that. Eric Anders is a one-trick pony. If he can't get you with that left, there's really nothing else there. He hasn't really shown any improvement, in his striking, whether it be with his hands, his feet. He hasn't showed any wrestling prowess. He hasn't showed any skills on the mat, any grappling and whatnot. Whereas Darren Stewart I think he is improving. I actually do like him, and I look forward to this fight. I think he's going to get the W and move on to better competition than Anders. I think Anders is on the chopping block. I think he might actually lose here by TKO, because Darren Stewart, man, he's going to throw those coconut bombs at or the coconut bomb dentist. Would that be a good name for Darren Stewart? Anyway, but yeah, he is definitely going to collect a tooth from Eric Anders and leave $1 under his pillow. Whatever the odds are, I'm definitely going with Darren Stewart on this. I don't see him losing, either by getting caught, or I don't know, maybe I just jinx myself. But I think Darren Stewart has the better skill set over Eric Anders, and I think Eric Anders is going to be on the chopping block after this fight.
In our co-main event at light heavyweight, we've got Misha Circunov versus Superman Ryan Spann. The odds are minus 140 for Circunov. The comeback on Spann is plus 120. I think very accurate. With Spann's last performance, man, what the hell? He could have easily knocked out Johnny Walker, but whatever happened, he just said, you know what? I feel like getting knocked out today. And he just allowed it to happen. Really, Circunov as well. But Circunov, he got knocked out by Johnny Walker by a flying knee. That's less embarrassing, in my opinion, because he just didn't see that coming. Like you get knocked out by a very low percentage technique. No shame in that. But the way Ryan Spann lost his last fight kind of left a really sour taste in my mouth. And I agree with the odds. Circunov should be the favorite. Biggest concern is, Ryan Spann hits hard. Circunov's been really knocked out quite a bit of times in his last few fights. His last win was against Jimmy Crute, and I'm pretty damn high on Jimmy Crute. So it's a really good win for Circunov. It's just that, Jimmy Crute kind of pulled a Ryan Spann there and allowed that Peruvian necktie to happen. Like he had him dead to rights, and I don't know what happened where Jimmy Crute just said, "Man, I want to take a trip to Peru today." It's a very close matchup. Even Tapology has it very close. 42% of people are going with Misha, and 58% of people are going with Ryan Spann. It's a very coin flip type of fight. I can really break down what each person does correctly and what they lack, but it really doesn't matter because in the long run, anything can really happen in this matchup. I don't think one guy has one particular advantage over the other. I think Circunov is a good grappler. Ryan Spann's a pretty good grappler. Ryan Spann has knockout power. Circunov can crack Ryan Spann. It's really, man, it's really comes down to, I don't know, man. Like, I really don't know how to break this one down. It's your personal preference. If you really think that Circunov's chin can no longer take really solid punches, you can go with Ryan Spann. But if you think Ryan Spann might make a mistake in there, because he has shown tendencies to just kind of have mental lapses in the cage. Like I don't know what happened with him versus Sam Alvey, but he essentially let Sam Alvey take rounds off of the fight from him, a fight that he should not have even been potentially close. And the Devin Clark fight, he won that fight via guillotine, but he looked a little flat-footed, a little off. So it concerns me because he should have just ran in there and beat up Devin Clark. Although Devin Clark has improved, it just I don't like this matchup for betting at all. Like I can't trust either guy to really implement what they're good at. Circunov should guaranteed try to take this down to the mat, use his ground and pound, go for a submission. But I can see Ryan Spann catching him with an uppercut, sprawling, beating him up. And I can see Ryan Spann keeping it on the feet, lighting up Misha Circunov, and then Misha just throws a Hail Mary overhand right and knocks out Ryan Spann. I will go with Ryan Spann, just for the hell of it. I'll go round number one knockout. But anything can really happen in this one. I'm not confident in any of these two fighters. This is another one of these show me fights. Ryan Spann has to show me that he has, cleared up the cobwebs, and I don't know, man. He has to start implementing game plans. I don't think he does that. It doesn't seem like it to me. And Circunov, I think he does do that, but I'm concerned about his chin and his durability. But I'll go with Ryan Spann to win this one. I think Fortis might just smack him back into place, get him reset, and then get him back on the win column. Circunov, although that win was really good against Jimmy Crute, I wasn't impressed by it. It's just more of Jimmy Crute creating that opportunity for him to lose instead of Misha Circunov creating an opportunity for him to win. So I'll go with Ryan Spann to win this one by first round knockout.
I'm skipping over this one with regards to choosing a side. I don't think either side is the right side. And yes, while both guys did get knocked out by Johnny Walker, I think the Ryan Spann fight was just, I don't know how else to describe it, but just as like maybe a joke fight. It's like if you want to show your like one of your friends, like, or if somebody wants to say like, oh hey, I think MMA is a joke, they're gonna put that fight on and be like, oh, did these guys uh, have a drink before? Did they hang out with Paulo Costa and have some wine before their fight?
Johnny Walker
You
was probably drinking some of that proper 12 from Straight Blast Jim.
yeah, probably. I don't know, man, but that was just a joke of a fight, and I lost all respect. Not that I had any respect for Ryan Spann, uh, and I'm not sure why he put that uh, crooked S on his chest. He is no Superman. Now, on the other side, Misha, yeah, he did lose to Johnny Walker, but it was an actual. It was. I would say it's a more respectable loss, not like the silly bar fight type thing that Ryan and Johnny had. He did beat Jimmy Crute. Well, I'm not super high on Jimmy Crute. He is kind of a guy who has a little bit of hype around his name at the moment, so that looks okay, I guess. So I would take a side. I'd give a slight edge to Misha just because his knockout was almost 2 years ago versus Ryan Spann. His silly knockout was 5 months ago. So I don't know if he's recovered in that amount of time. He is younger. He is 2 inches taller than Misha, but you know that's really negligible. I don't know, man. I'm not very high on either guy, but I'm less so on Ryan Spann after that Johnny Walker fight. That's I don't know, man. It's not looking forward to this fight. I have no idea who set this fight up to be the co-main event. Given that they could have made the Gavin Tucker fight the co-main event, or even the fight, the Darren Stewart fight should have been the co-main event. That would have been, more appropriate.
In our main event of the evening, we have a bout between Belal, remember the name Muhammad, and Leon, what's his name? Scott. Yeah, so coming in here, we've got a matchup between two top ranked welterweights. We have Belal Muhammad coming in here, number 14 in the world, and Leon Edwards. I know his name is Edwards. I'm playing around. Leon Edwards is coming in number 6 in the world. They both have identical records, 18-3, and the odds currently have it, wow, minus 250 for Leon Edwards. The comeback on Belal Muhammad plus 200. I honestly, when I heard this matchup was announced, I wasn't very excited for it. The only thing that gets me excited is that we finally get to see Belal Muhammad jump into those top 5, top 10 type of fights after really putting in a lot of work. I know the guy works really hard. As for Leon Edwards, I respect the guy. He's on a massive, massive win streak. He's on what, 8 fight win streak. Notable wins over Brian Barberina, Vicente Luque, Donald Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson. His last win back in 2019 was against Rafael Dos Anjos. I will say the moment I knew that Leon Edwards was something special is when he beat Albert Tumanov. At that time, Albert was really, really good. He was one of those new destroyer Russians coming into the UFC, and he looked really good. And when I refreshed my phone as I was on my way to like watch the fight card was Bisping versus Henderson 2. I'd realized that Albert Tumanov got submitted by Leon Edwards. I'm like, damn, this guy is something special to watch out for. My criticisms of Rocky Edwards are honestly, he's just a very boring fighter. And I know that's very casual of me to say. And trust me, I am one of the more hardcore guys. I literally watch every single fight, but I can honestly say I can skip a Leon Edwards fight. Like, I like that he's good. He's good everywhere. He's a good grappler. He's a good kickboxer. He's really good inside the clinch. The elbows that he throws are fantastic. It's just that he's kind of a boring guy, and he doesn't really stand out in the top 10 or the top 5 in the welterweight division. And I'm not saying that he has to talk shit or anything like that. It's just that his performances, although he's very technically sound, they're just not very highlight worthy, if you will. His last finish was against Peter Sabata back in 2018. And it is what it is. He had a very close fight with Gunnar Nelson. But in all honesty, I'm really underselling this guy's talent. I think he's a very talented guy. I think he should be fighting for the title soon. If he gets his win over Belal Muhammad, that would put him at what, a 8-9 fight win streak. As for Belal Muhammad, all I can say is this guy has the biggest balls. He just recently fought about 2 weeks ago, and in a bout with Diego Lima where his leg was brutalized, and he's coming in here on very short notice, and he's trying to prove to everyone that he belongs in the top tier division of the top 10. He's currently ranked number 14, as I mentioned, and he's really trying to push for that I don't want to say a title shot, but of course everyone wants a title shot, but he's really cementing himself as a guy that you will remember. Oddly enough, Leon Edwards is a guy you don't really remember. Remember the name, Belal Muhammad is a guy you remember because his style, although it's not the most impressive sometimes either, he's not really knocking dudes out. He's just so in your face. And honestly, it sucks to see that he's going to lose this matchup because Rocky Edwards, despite the long layoff, again, he hasn't fought since 2019, and he's had multiple canceled bouts and possibly even multiple training camps. He's looked really good on social media. He is shredded to the bone. And honestly, I really wish Belal Muhammad the best. I really like the guy. I didn't say, I don't want to say I met him in Chicago, but I was near him in Chicago, like inches away, and I kind of pussied out and didn't want to say hi to him. I was like, oh shit, it's Belal Muhammad. But I really do hope he wins this matchup. It would be an interesting thing to see. This is the perfect spot for him to come in here and win, though, because although Rocky Edwards looks amazing currently in his physical shape, he hasn't fought in quite some time, and Belal Muhammad just recently fought. So he might be in that rhythm where everything just clicks for him, and Leon Edwards is just a little too slow for the pace. His conditioning, I wouldn't say Rocky Edwards' conditioning might suffer because he's a very well conditioned athlete, but we might potentially see moments where he just might not necessarily gas out, but just be a little winded. And those moments, Belal Muhammad could take over. But at this point, honestly, it's really hard for me to discredit Leon Edwards. I'll have to pick him to win this one by a decision. The odds currently, again, minus 250 favorite for Rocky Edwards and a plus 200 for Belal Muhammad. Not touching this one whatsoever. I will go with the over for sure. I think this one goes to a decision. I don't think either guy will have the ability to finish each other. If anything, maybe Rocky Edwards might land something impactful, but this isn't the same Belal Muhammad who got knocked out by Vicente Luque. I think he's just too crafty and too clever, but unfortunately, he's just going to be a little too slow to the punch. I've got Rocky Edwards to win this one by a decision.
Yeah, I'm not too really excited about this main event, to be honest. Props to Muhammad for jumping back in, after beating the lesser Lima. And, surprising that Lima did put up more of a fight than I actually anticipated. But he is jumping in here with a fresh Edwards, and we've seen what a fresh Edwards can do. He can decision the hell out of top guys. So I think he'll probably decision the hell out of Belal Muhammad, unfortunately, as much as I like. And I do remember his name. Not really much to say. They're fairly even in terms of, well, I guess Edwards has a slight height advantage. One, he has a 3 reach height advantage and a 3 inch reach advantage. And I think Edwards has the superior boxing, even though, as you mentioned, Belal has better volume. I think Edwards is going to probably just, decision this. I don't think he's going to do anything crazy, and then he's going to call out Usman. But I don't know if anybody's really excited to watch Edwards get in there and just get manhandled by Usman, foot stomped, or whatever. Yeah, so Leon Edwards will probably get another win. Belal Muhammad, props to him. I'll look forward to him healing up and getting a proper training camp behind his next fight.
Those have been our picks for UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Muhammad. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate those comments. Follow us on Instagram at Tigerbomb MMA and on Twitter at Tigerbomb MMA. But again, those have been our picks for Fight Night Edwards and Muhammad, and we'll catch you at the next fight.